Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even morning. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That's more like it. One more time. Good afternoon. Hello, Sambonani, Kunjani. Thank you so much. Bonjour, and greetings to all of you for making it here today. My name is Tola Fwamba. I'll be your MC for the day. And to get today started off, I'd like everybody in their seats because we have an opening act that will allow you to enter into what today's program is about. All right, so can everybody please give them a round of applause? That was beautiful. That was beautiful. So that was our Congolese youth giving us a very nice taste of Congolese culture. And in light of Congolese culture, before we start today, I want to teach you guys a greeting. All you have to say is Mbote. Can we practice that? Mbote. So I'm going to say, Bamasta Mbote. And you say Mbote. Bamasta Mbote. Bamasta Mbote. No. You have to say Mbote. I will say Bamasta Mbote. Bamasta Mbote. Lovely. One more time. Bamasta Mbote. Man, I feel the love, man. I feel the love. Thank you so much. And today's event is a big words. It's a collab between the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa and Chisimani Center for Activist Education this year. And in order to introduce the work that we do in the CCSSA, we will play a short video for all of you. All right? All right, guys, we're just waiting for the projector to go on. But in the meantime, just to give you guys a brief update about today, 77 years ago on this day marked an event that sticks with all of us forever in human history. And just for a quick preview of that, I'd want to see, by a show of hands, how many of you know what happened 77 years ago? Anybody? All right, go for it. Would you tell me? Well, what happened is the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that ended World War II. And today's event will be in commemoration of the victims who survived that bombing. And in a brief moment, we'll be revealing to all of you a part of history that was forgotten in retrospect to that. But before we get to all of that, can you just look at your neighbor right now and say, good afternoon? Love it, love it. Look at your neighbor. Greet your neighbor. I see you. You didn't greet the guy. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And if you can, just to double check, ask them, do they know about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And if they don't know, and you know, please let them know. It's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. I love to see it. And to the people that are sitting far back, if I could kindly ask for you to move a bit closer. If you're sitting far back, could you please move a bit closer? Thank you so much. We one big family today, guys. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice. I hope the conversations that are going around are about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because I'm going to be asking one by one if you guys learned anything about it. All right. So before we play the video, I'd like to ask, from our quick interaction, did any of you learn something new about Hiroshima and Nagasaki by a show of hands? Nothing. Oh, you learned, okay. Would you mind telling us? You can start with your name. There's no problem. We're one big family. Good afternoon, Haley. Woo! Give a round of applause for Haley, guys. She knows more than all of you. And you sitting there with her. All right, we're going to be playing the video now. This video is just to show you guys some of the work we've been doing as the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa. And just to update all of you on today.
Last 7 years of our existence for an objective of society transformation, social cohesion of African and South Africa, valuing the history and culture of Africa, facilitating integration program and guiding society, mostly young, who are the future of tomorrow. We have continuously strived to improve the community. Working with Home Affairs and HCR, we provided accurate information to more than 2,000 people and guidance in the extension of refugees ID online using Gmail, bringing awareness to the world of issues that matter for us. We have conducted workshops and events for the voice of the voiceless in annually commemoration and celebrations like climate change, gender-based violence, Refugee Day, youth and women, social cohesion, hero who exposed Leopold to Holocaust of rubber, African Minerals Day, Commemoration Day of Soldier and Victims of War in DR Congo, Society Transformation, International Solidarity, the missing link of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Shin-Kolo-Bue. During the pandemic of COVID-19, we distributed food parcels to more than 5,000 families in the rural areas of Cape Town, South Africa.
For all of these to be done and to continue, we need help from everyone willing to use their flame of passion to serve. We can do better together because
divided we fall, united we stand.
That's the video, basically giving you guys an update of the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa. And our slogan is, divided we fall, united we stand. But just to make sure everybody's here in the building, I'm going to do that Congolese greeting one more time. Bamasta Mbote. Ah, you guys are not there. One more time. Bamasta Mbote. Nice. So, next up we have two that are going to be telling us about the history of the little boy, the nickname of the bomb to be in Hiroshima. And this was on August 6th, 1945. The second video we'll be playing after that will be one that was to beg the question if it was necessary for Japan to surrender through these bombings. All right, we'll be playing the videos now.
To nuke or not to nuke? As Barack Obama prepares to become the first US president to visit Hiroshima, it's worth remembering that the conventional wisdom says dropping the world's first and only atomic bombs was essential for ending the Second World War and saved lives. To this day, a majority of Americans still believe it was the right thing to do, as does one of Japan's top historians, Sadao Asada, who says it's what prompted Japan to surrender. But that's not the whole story. Did you know that a number of leading US military and political figures at the time were hugely critical of President Harry Truman's decision to nuke the Japanese? Admiral William D. Leahy, Truman's chief of staff, said that by using nuclear weapons, the US had adopted an ethical standard common to the barbarians of the Dark Ages. Former US President Herbert Hoover said the use of the atomic bomb with its indiscriminate killing revolts my soul. Ethical debates aside, was the bomb necessary for ending the war? Well, 6 of the 7 5-star US generals and admirals at that time felt there was no need to drop the bomb because Japanese surrender was imminent. General Dwight Eisenhower, later president, said Japan was already defeated and that dropping the bomb was completely unnecessary. And he wasn't alone in his opposition to that. In fact, a post-war panel of 1,000 experts, including surviving Japanese leaders, concluded Japan would have surrendered even if the atomic bombs had not been dropped. Today, more and more historians are questioning the conventional, the traditional arguments in favor of the attack, including the top Japanese historian Toshi Hasagawa, who has, quote, marshaled compelling evidence that it was the Soviet entry into the Pacific conflict, not Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that forced Japan's surrender. And then there's the question, why drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan? As US historian Barton Bernstein put it, whatever one thinks about the necessity of the first A-bomb, the second, dropped on Nagasaki, was almost certainly unnecessary. At least 39,000 people, men, women, children, were instantly incinerated in Nagasaki, at least 60,000 in Hiroshima. Obama might be the first US president to visit Hiroshima since the war's end, but don't expect an apology. It's not really something most US presidents are fond of doing.
I'll never apologize for the United States of America. Ever. I don't care what the facts are.
Well, he may not care, but some of us do, including the victims of the world's first and only nuclear attack.
Al Jazeera. And, you know, we showed this video to let everyone know of the impact these 2 bombs had on a whole civilization, on real people. And in memory of those people that were victims to those 2 bombings, we'll be lighting up a candle and holding a moment of silence for them. Just a minute of silence. Thank you. We will now invite Sivuim Doda from Chisimani and Joe Eves from the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa to talk about the missing link in this history. Can everybody give them a round of applause as they approach the stage?
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like Larry King now. Comrades, friends, colleagues, I think on this section of the program, there's just something we just want to do in form of a conversation. Instead of a presentation that will go to PowerPoint, I want to just maybe converse with Comrade Eve from the Congolese Civil Society. Like Tola said, I'm Siviwe from Chisimani. Just as a way of introduction, today, people see that there are handouts that are going on, and I would like maybe Comrade Eve to just take us through why today. And in doing so, I just want to maybe start by saying, whenever we talk about stories of development in Africa and how that relates to the outside world, we are always told narratives of domination. That it's an African state that has minerals, and then that African state is poor, and outside world is benefiting from that. Or there is a military intervention, there is instability for the benefit of the outside world. But today the reason is different. We are talking about the missing link. You know, maybe if you can start us there, Joy, in terms of what is this missing link? And most of us never imagined or even heard that there is a historical link between the nation of Japan and the nation of the Democratic Republic of Congo. You know, until the civil society, Congolese Civil Society of South Africa, started a program of this nature to make us aware. What is this missing link? Maybe if you can start us there.
Thank you so much, comrade. And I'm happy to share this moment with you, and especially in this special day, as the entire world is trying to commemorate what happened 77 years in the history of the humanity. And we all know that Japan is the first country that suffered the impact of the first generation of the atomic bomb. And we also know that US was the first country to get access to the bomb. That was amazing. But the link that's still missing after 7 decades, what links US to Congo, and at the same time, what links also Japan to Congo. First of all, when they say Shinkolobwe, I'm not sure that so many people know where Shinkolobwe. And for others, it's the first time to know that there is a city called Shinkolobwe. So Shinkolobwe is the twin sister of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because in the history, they are the first city that suffered the consequence of the radiation of the radiation of uranium. And Shinkolobwe is very special because first, the uranium that destroyed Hiroshima was extracted from Shinkolobwe mine. That's the first link. Second link, before that uranium to destroy life in Japan, it first started by destroying life in Shinkolobwe, the life of indigenous. That is something that has never been highlighted, and you don't find it in the history book, and you don't learn it from school. That's the first link that we want to create between the twin sister of Hiroshima, where the disaster was committed, mentioning that in Congo also there is a city that suffered the same radiation, that is Shinkolobwe, but also there is a link between Shinkolobwe and US, because that's where they got the special ore that allowed them to be the first to reach the atomic bomb.
No, that is very eye-opening, because most of us really did not think that the main ingredient of the atomic bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, in actually Congo. Now, I mean, as here in South Africa, we've had our own difficulties when it comes to energy, where earlier, I'm sure people remember, there was something called a nuclear deal with Russia, you know. So most of us get persuaded that no, maybe this all the properties of building this come from Russia. You know, we didn't know that actually the continent also there's quite a lot of raw materials that manufacture this kind of things. Now, why do you think maybe us here in South Africa, it's important to understand this linkage, you know, from the point of view of the Congolese civil society of South Africa? Why the people that are here and the organizations that have sent their representatives to come and listen to what is happening here? Why it's important for us to understand this in South Africa in particular?
Thanks, comrade. First, we having this conference is in a special day, as I said, means South Africa was not affected directly by what happened in Hiroshima, but today South Africa is lighting a candle to pay the tribute to the victim in Hiroshima, because we are one humanity. And in South Africa, as well said, when we're talking about Ubuntu, means wherever there are human, we are linked. If they're suffering, we're suffering also. And I remember that in 2003, when I was writing my dissertation in philosophy, my topic was about where is Africa sitting during the globalization, out or in? And I was saying that out or in doesn't matter. The most important that Africa must still exist. And when they're talking about globalization, the first definition that comes in mind, people say we kind of like a village. And sometimes I laugh. I don't know if those who gave that definition have ever lived in a village. I came from a rural area, and I know what makes a village. According to them, we are a village because one, there is an information is spread from one point to another point so quickly. But for what I learned from a village, the most important is not the fact that the information arrives, is that the response also come. If you say it's burning here, people will run from there to come and assist. That's what makes a village. So for today, for us it's important, and we really appreciate to see that there are a lot of South African other countries that are here, because what happened in Shinkolobo is part of the history of the humanity, as we decide from 1945 that never and ever thing like that can happen. After seeing what happened in Japan, it's important to let you know that the radiation effect and impact are still going on in Shinkolobo, as we'll demonstrate later on during the conference.
Yeah, I think the time we're talking about is 1945. We are talking times before decolonization. You know, this is the colonial Congo. You know, so one would imagine that at that time the authorities had European interests at heart, and they did not hide that. You know, the minerals of the Congo are for the benefit of Belgium. Tell me, in terms of what happened in Shikolongwe, the mining of this uranium, how perhaps do you think, would you say, it got to be in Japan? What journey would you say this has taken from the Congo to become, it's called little boy? A very interesting term for such a destructive device. Yeah, can you just maybe take us there, that what really is at the base of this story is what is happening, though we will talk about Shikolongwe later on, but from Shikolongwe, what was the process? What happened after the mineral was mined? Just to take us through, because most of us are not familiar with these kinds of processes.
Thanks so much. Quickly, Shinkolobo is in the southern part of Congo, And to go out, you have different route. You can go through Zambia, and then you come to Durban, and you can ship it from there. Or you pass through Lobito in Angola, and then you go out. Or you cross Congo, and then you go to Kinshasa, Matadi, and then you can ship it. So the first route was from Shinkolobwe to Matadi, and then they go out using the sea to America. From America, where the Manhattan Project was built and where the bomb was manufactured. And before to go to Japan and drop it, they also test it in New Mexico. So there's still a link to there. And after seeing that it's successful, it can destroy effectively. From there, they drop it in Japan. So that route is the main route. But after a while, they realize that it will be taking time because time is running. And they decide now to use one of the airports in Kinshasa. They build quickly an airport in Kinshasa just to export, to avoid in the road that they can be attacked. If it's taking time first to go to Matadi by railway and then from there ship it to US, it will take months. So the best way is to make a bridge, a high bridge, and from Kinshasa straight to US. But also they avoid the short road that was through Lobito in Angola, because remember that they was inviting other spies that was around, like Soviet spies and also German spies, to notice that something is happening. And in that time, Shinkorobo as a village was removed from the map of the world. It doesn't exist for that time because they were avoiding people to get interest on that. And even the ambassador of US in Kinshasa, they didn't even know that their spies are organizing the shipment of such a mineral. So the road was so secret, and up to now, Shinkolobo area is still covered by the shadow of that secret.
So it's fair to say that mining uranium in the DRC, it gave a strategic advantage to the Americans in terms of beating Russia to manufacturing of the atomic bomb and actually dropping it. You said something about this not being tested. They are running out of time. Talk more about that.
Yeah. So both sides was running beyond time, because remember that without the atomic bomb, no one should know how the world will end up. Soldiers on the ground were so tired, and resources are being burned, and we don't know who will be the winner. So at the same time, Germans also were trying to develop an atomic program, and once US got suspicious that Germany started to develop the program, so they have to run also quickly to be the first. It was really a scramble, but for that you must get access to the resource that will allow you to develop your program. So actually, the resources in Congo help and or gave advantage to a country like US, and not only US, most of those sitting today in the UN Security Council got that privilege because they were the winner of the war, and they won the war because they used the atomic bomb. So it's like Congo were the engine or the horse that helped one side to win the race, and after that they forgot about the horse that helped. That's the situation.
It seems to me that the bomb, little boy, and also later the one called, is it Fat Boy, but that one was plutonium.
Yes.
Yeah, this one was uranium. It could be traced to the DRC. How much does this incident lay foundations for what later we can call the Cold War?
Exactly. The fact that US got the atomic bomb put them in a position, in a hegemonical position, comparing to other important countries. And notice that US got the atomic bomb in 1945, and 4 years later on, Russia or let's say the Soviet Union that was during the war at the same side with US decide also to develop their own program, and they got also the atomic bomb. And US was so surprised to see that the Soviet also Union also got a bomb. And by there, the Soviet decide now to start also to increase their influence in the world, also trying to control the source of that specific ore. And that way, the opposition, for instance, between Soviet Union and US start, because each and everyone got access to something that is empower him and try to control the world, and the world start to devise in two blocks.
So I think it's the story of the scrambling for African resources intensifying even more when it comes to, you know, the discovery of these strategic resources like uranium and plutonium, and also now I think right now the game is more on cobalt. You know, this has been going on. Now, maybe just I need your comment on this one. I've read somewhere, I read this article where the current president,
Tshisekedi?
Tshisekedi, he was quoted to have said that the value of the minerals that are in the Congo today, you know, the estimated value, that means the ballpark figure, there may be more, the value may be more, is actually $24 trillion.
Yeah.
And the country is facing a lot of development challenges in terms of infrastructure. Of course, there is ongoing instability. There's always conflict that is ongoing. Now, I just want maybe, in terms of, from the point of view of the Congolese civil society, working here in South Africa, advancing activism here, we do understand that there is a move at the regional level, at the level of SADC, of opening avenues for African-owned businesses to get to the table and eat. At the front end of these companies are South African companies. You know, so I mean, how is the role of mineral wealth? To what extent does this contribute to the deepening crisis that has been ongoing for decades, in terms of people not having democratic rights, in terms of people being excluded? You know, from the point of view of Congolese civil society, what role do you think, you know, our mineral wealth, is it maybe a curse on Africa, like some analysts would say, or what is your take on that?
I think that what's happening currently is because in the past, we didn't really take action about or against what happened. And you know, what happened may still happen if we let it happen, and until we stop it. And I think people try to copy a very bad example that gave very good result. And the case of Congo is so specific. I can summarize it like this. There is a kind of trilogy. Means whenever there is a need, and if the resources that it is needed is targeted in Congo, during the process of supply, we still counting death. It didn't start now, it started in the past, during the colonization, even before with King Leopold II, where because they were running to get access to the rubber, and during the supply of rubber, almost 10 million of Congolese was killed in a way or in another way. But the problem that 100 years later, or a century later, only that Belgium accept to release or to declassify the documentation that can allow to understand who the king were and how Belgium got rich. So up to now, there is no even a statement that make Leopold II being regarded as a criminal, and not even a comment or even an action that can push Belgium to pay for what they did. That example being repeated, we're talking about Chinkolobo, we'll see deeply that all the crime that was committed during the extraction up to now are secret. US and Belgium don't want to be accountable of anything, even to clean the place. And now, currently now, we're talking about rebellion, and it's good that we're talking today because Bunagana is under the hand of rebel now. So the process of extracting illegally coltan and other mineral now also as a consequence, almost 10 million of Congolese have been killed up to now. But same process, there is a report, a very important report made by UN expert that is called mapping report that is laying somewhere in the Security Council since 2013 up to now, and there is a veto on because that report can't be revealed. But they only gave a draft. They say all the crime that were committed from 2003 to 2013 are well documented. They indicate the place where crime was committed, resources that were looting. They also show clearly village burn, life destroyed, but they say they can't reveal to the world who did that, the identity of those who did that. Leopold II, same logic with the uranium, same logic with what is happening now. So I think the link is clear because we have different type of crime. Crime that sustain the economy, they are considered like good crimes, and crime that destroy or disturb the economy. Those are bad crimes. So those crimes that sustain the economy, they are always forgotten, voluntarily forgotten, because they are feeding us. So the link is there, is very clear. Congo is where it is and how it is because the world have to enjoy the life that we're enjoying. We have laptop, we have cell phone, and that, but to get that in the price that we're having, they must eastern side of Congo to get cheaper the raw material and get more profit. And that's the logic.
Yeah, I think as also as a way of maybe wrapping up, coming close to this part of the program, I want us to maybe talk a little bit about activism and solidarity across borders. Here in South Africa, it is not a secret. It's a matter of historical fact that we have the media and the education system that tells us very little about what is happening in the countries outside the borders. And it also is not helping us in understanding the situation that drives a lot of migration towards South Africa. As Congolese civil society, with a program of this nature, what can you say you want to communicate to activists in South Africa first? And as Congolese civil society, what perhaps do you hope you want to, this program, what do you hope to inspire? Not only just amongst activists in South Africa, maybe some plans and the vision you have, can you share us in terms of this being recognized at the highest possible platform, like your Security Council, like in the UN? Because here in South Africa in 1972, if not 3, we had a UN resolution that said apartheid was a crime against humanity. You know, I mean, from the side of the Congolese civil society, what do you hope that programs of this nature will contribute to? It will not achieve it on its own, but it will make a contribution towards that.
Exactly. And I think that's the reason why every year we try to do the same thing and to create awareness. That's the first important, the first point. But also because somewhere, and you mentioned that, somewhere what's happened is to be named. And I used to say that whatever doesn't have a name doesn't exist. And there were reasons for the world to qualify clearly that what was happening in South Africa had to be called apartheid system. And we take it from there. Then we can qualify and see where is fit that according to the regulation that we have. What happened in Congo? We talk about 10 million in the past of people who lost their life, 10 million now, and numerous people during the war. But what all the crimes that are committed in Congo don't have name. The first effort that we have is that one day it should be also qualified. And then people can be punished. For instance, last time we were talking about the silent Holocaust of Congolese. We call it Holocaust because it's like they're sacrificing Congolese for a good reason. So, can we try to name what is happening? First thing. Second reason we host this event every time. South Africa is well advanced in terms of activism, and we're happy that we're hosting today in partnership with Titimani. That's a very important center. Means imperialism doesn't know border, doesn't have a flag. It can attack everywhere, and wherever it attacks, there are also consequences on the other side. For instance, here, South Africa deal with borders, with illegal migration, and all that. So if you don't know the story behind what people can be running from one place to another place, you will never be able to support. I remember that when I was young, and in 1990, I think I was in grade 6, we were performing about Soweto. I didn't even know that one day I would be in South Africa. We were singing, one of the songs was in Kikongo, my language. Soweto, oh Soweto, Mpasi Africa. Means the suffering of the people of Soweto is our problem in Africa. And we are so young to perform that. The same response, that's what we also expect from South African activists and people. Means what's happening there, it has to affect you in a way or in another way. Otherwise, if you don't understand our story, you will always be questioning, why are you here? When are you going back? But you will never be ready to support for there to be better and see people going back. That's very important. So I think this program, and I'm happy to see a lot of activities here. And please take it from there, make it your own story, and duplicate it as you will, and try to do what you can with. That is very important.
Good afternoon, everybody. I do apologize for my voice if I do sound funny. Guys, please give me a round of applause for Eve and Siviwe. That was amazing. I often refer to Eve as a talking dictionary because he literally is. Like he talks forever and he has so much knowledge. So the more time you spend with him, the more you learn, guys. Going forward, I would like to introduce our very own Tola, who will be doing a poem for us. I don't know where he vanished to, but can we please have a round of applause for him? And Thola will be doing a poem on the, what is it about? I think the ignorance of the missing link of Shingo Bue. Okay.
Little background, guys. Gloria is actually my niece. Can you guys give a hand of applause for my niece? Thank you so much, Gloria. All right, so for me to do this poem, I like standing on the stage. I'm sorry, I'm not Gloria. For me to do my poem, I'm gonna need you guys to all help me. So Every time I say I am, you will scream back human. Can we practice that? I am. I am. I am. Powerful. Okay. So another thing is this poem really puts me into a very emotional state because I have to envision myself as Congo. So please be very patient with me as I enter the mind state of the nation. And yeah, we're gonna work together on this poem. I am. I am. I am. For 77 years, the world chose to remember the tears of all those who fell victim to that terrible fate. 77 years, and my tears still fall on deaf ears. 77 years I've been screaming till my story disappeared. You see, today I do not seek just your sympathy. I seek accountability from those who tried to silence me, taking my uranium and then trying to forget me. I cannot forget the ways you tried to get rid of me because I am. I am. I am. You see, Einstein's letter is what started the vendetta. You could have come to me in truth, but you chose to pose as a liar, deceiving my people to mine that uranium for the bomb that came from Satan. I am convinced that even now Satan thinks that you Satan. United States of America and Belgium, you are dead to me. I hate you so much. I hate you everything. This is me coming at you very directly because I've been silenced for 1 century. They say every man is the same in the eyes of a blade. But when any man bleeds, is it not the same shade? And when any man weeps, is it not the same way? But for some reason, when I do it, everybody forgets. I am. I am. I am. And injustice is not my legacy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Tola. A louder round of applause, please. I think that was also amazing. Yes, my nephew. Very strange to say that on stage, but anyway. Guys, coming up next, we have a theater performance happening. I don't know if they're ready. Are we all set? All good to go? Yes, okay, I'm gonna count you till 3 and then we're gonna go, okay? So 1, 2, 3. A round of applause, everybody.
We did it.
All rise as Judge Kaita enters the courtroom. Today's case is about Mr. and Mrs. Kasongo, who have issues in their 10-year-long marriage. Mr. Kasongo pleads for a divorce.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I married this lady 10 years ago. I married her 10 years ago, and marriage is Your Honor, I married this lady 10 years ago, and at my point of view, marriage is where your heart stands, and where your heart isn't, it's useless for you to force it. Marriage is where your heart stands, and it's useless to force it. I married her 10 years ago, and I'm finding it, and she hasn't been able to be a single child for me throughout that 10 years. And right now, my beautiful wife is pregnant, my beautiful girlfriend is pregnant with our first bouncing baby boy. And I find it that, and maybe she have had disorderly youth days, but maybe she just can't bear children because too many abortions happen. Perhaps, I don't know, anything could have happened.
Your Honor, I've been faithful to this man. I don't know what I've done. It's not my fault that I couldn't bear a child for him. I've treated him well. I fed him, cooked for him. But look what he's doing to me by cheating with this woman. It's not fair, Your Honor. It's not.
Pardon me, Your Honor, for interfering in this matter, please.
Sorry, madam. Who are you?
I am the mother of this young lady here. I am her mother, Your Honor. And looking at how this matter is going, I had to interfere in this matter, Your Honor. Your Honor, I was a mother of 5 kids.
Can you stand there and tell us your story?
I gave birth to 5 kids. I gave birth to 5 kids years ago, and each one of them passed away with different types of diseases. Without me knowing, Your Honor, I never knew what was the cause of this disease, where it was coming from, Your Honor. It took me 7 years, Your Honor, 7 whole years, and I did not bear a single child after my 5 kids passed away. Then I did my researches with the old people of the villages just to find out that years ago, my husband was forced to work in the labor, in the mines, where he had all sorts of chemicals affected his body. That was the cause of my kids dying one by one with different sorts of diseases, Your Honor.
Stop. That's a very serious in this court.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm aware of what I'm actually saying, Your Honor. I'm a well-educated woman, Your Honor, and so are my kids. And I have done marriage, Your Honor, just to find out that forced work in the mines get affected in different ways, which leads to other different types of kids of diseases and dying. That's why they get maltreated like this, Your Honor. They're born with malfunctions in their body because they are forced to work in mines which they don't want to work in, Your Honor. And this is a matter that this court needs to look on, because how can you allow people getting divorced, people dying in different sort of ways because of the way they are being forced to work in mines in their own country, and they are not anything from it, Your Honor. Other countries taking things from us, they are becoming well known, while the things which belong from our own country, or some of these curses, which I can basically say, Your Honor. So this case is what you need to look into, the people forcing our people in my country, in Congo, to work in mines forcefully, Your Honor.
How as a judge, I have to say something. This is a sad news, a sad story. For this case, I decided I'm going to suspend the hearing this. I'm going to suspend it because I need to ask for a team of specialists to go there, investigate about the matter, and see what is going on. Because we need people to stand for the rights of the human being, Congolese, affected. May the court be adjourned. Thank you.
Can we give them one more round of applause?
I don't know about you guys, I think that was very good. The whole idea behind it, I think, is quite inspiring. And I think it leaves you with lots of questions, doesn't it? It makes you think, it makes you question. And I think that's the whole aim of today. Going up next, I'll refer to Garrett, who's also a talking dictionary on his own. He's a military historian, and I think he'll further introduce himself. I don't know if he wants to. Okay, that's all right. You're going to go upstage? You're going to be here? Yeah. Okay, cool. Garrett, everybody, thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Is my microphone working? Can you hear me? Yes. All right, so they're going to use the stick and hit the projector a few times. Hopefully we'll get that right. Last time it took a little while, so I think while that's happening, I'm going to quickly do something with everyone here just to wake you up a little bit. And it's actually going to require me to come down. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about while we're doing this presentation is how atomic bombs work. And we're going to be injecting a little bit of science in there, but rather than just having the picture on screen, I actually want to give you an idea of what happens when we do an atomic reaction. So while that's loading, I'm going to come to the back. You don't all have to turn around. Just keep staring that way. I'll be there right now. Let's start with you. Hang on a sec. What's your name? No. His name is not Siseko. It is now name?
Neutron.
Neutron. Okay, his name's Neutron. We're going to see just now what a neutron is, but we're going to start with that. Okay. So next person. What's your name? No, it's also Neutron. All right. What's your name? No, it's also Neutron. Okay, what's your name though?
Natalie.
Natalie? Your name is not Natalie, and it's not Neutron either. It is now uranium-235, okay? Everyone else who's not Neutron, your name is now uranium-235. You are now catalyst. When Neutron touches you, you will go, "Bwah!" and immediately touch the person next to you. That person is now also uranium-235. When that happens, you will be giving off an atomic reaction. And immediately when you do that, touch the person in front of you, touch the person in front of you, etc., okay? We're going to try this out. It's going to be loud, it's going to be chaotic, that's what happens. Okay, you might have to lean a little forward though, because you're a bit further away, so. Okay, so are my neutrons ready? I want you to touch the person next to you and in front of you, all right? So now I'm the scientist, and my loud, guys. Come on, you're an atomic reaction. Loud. Bwah! Bwah! Come on, touch. Bwah! Okay, don't hit each other. Just Bwah! There we go. Bwah! Okay, calm down. You guys are childish. All right, so congratulations. You're all a nuclear weapon. But obviously this was a far calmer, far nicer reaction, right? We're all just having a good time here. The real thing is obviously a lot more explosive. And it's not necessarily always bad, right? We have the Kuberg nearby, and with ESCOM doing its thing, it's helping us out a little, right? But that's the nuance. Can I get my presentation when you feel like it, please? All right, I'm just giving him trouble. I know how it is with tech guys. Like I used to be in the tech realm as well. It is such a mission. You try to get everything together. two options. One will be possibly a unlimited or at least a really useful energy method, and that's the one represented on the right there. On this side, though, you might also then have a nuclear explosion. You're not entirely sure, but perhaps the nuclear explosion could even be harnessed. Point is, you're trying to make something potentially good, but you're not entirely sure. So given how humanity works, we still kind of have the question, should we split the atom or not? If I don't do it, someone probably will. So I've got the two options there, and I'll quickly ask you before we get to the rest of this. Again, remembering that you might be this scientist from 1939, before we know anything bad about this. Now, raise your hands if you would not split the atom. If you were given the option, you're the lead scientist, and someone asks you, would you split the atom? Raise your hand if you would say no. Okay, so I've got one. Anyone else? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got about 4 or 5 people out of here that would say they wouldn't split the atom. Now, who would split the atom? Raise your hands if you would split the atom. All right, there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I've got about 10 or so people here. The rest of you just kind of like, I guess I'm a scientist, I know what's going on, so it's fine. Now, keep that in mind moving forward when we get to that point of split or don't split. What might happen? We're going to come back to this. I just like to put these little memes out here. I'm sure you guys have seen this on the internet. It's always a fun one. All right. Quick about me. So when the thing goes away, so that's my name up there, Garrett Erickson. Got a master's in African studies. I went to Edinburgh, did it there. It was great to kind of meet people from around the world. Lots of people from Africa coming to Edinburgh and studying. We've got some really good stuff done. I'm currently at Stellenbosch completing my PhD. That's why that little asterisk is there. That's my website, citizenhistorian.com, and that's my email address. I'm a South African British historian, although the accent might throw you off a little bit. That's just from watching too much TV, so don't worry about it. I'm also an animal conservationist and a science communicator, so there's some of the stuff I've been up to recently. 2019, I was in Angola at the top there. We were scouting the Lomba River for old tanks and ordnance. Also catch crocodiles in my spare time, as one does. And on the bottom right there, a friend of mine was very kind enough to invite me on a paleontological dig, and we found that nice Carnodontosaurus skeleton there, which is the African equivalent of the T-Rex. So you can go see him, and I would definitely recommend that. Yeah, generally speaking, I research on the impacts of war on soldiers, ecology, and society, and I've been lucky enough to travel to about 55 countries and every continent except Australia, but including Antarctica. Australia I do want to go to, but only when we beat them in the rugby next time. All right, you can move on, please. Okay, so we've got 4 questions that we're going to be concerning ourselves with today. Number 1, what makes nuclear weaponry so different to conventional weaponry? Number 2, how do atomic bombs work, which we got a taste of just now. Number 3, what are the environmental and humanitarian consequences? And 4, what can we do about it? I always like to ask that question when we're at the end there. Can we move on? All right. So in terms of what makes nuclear weaponry different, you can probably move to the next one as well. It's just a nice little image there. So that's one of the first nuclear weapon tests. That's a photo from it. You can move on there. So yeah, it's fine. You can leave that up. All right. So conventional weapons. What does that mean? So conventional weapons is what we call the term when we use it in conventional war. So what is conventional war? Well, World War I and World War II are conventional wars. The war in Ukraine is conventional. There are all types of conventional wars, and that is when 2 or more states are in confrontation using battlefield tactics to achieve victory. That's kind of the dictionary definition. But conventional weapons, mines, missiles, artillery, these standard military stuff, what we're used to with the army, etc., tend to produce many weapons over many years. Through these weapons and activities that over an extended time, it's very rare that conventional warfare will lead to thousands dying within about a day or so, except World War I was the exception there. For the first time, we had machine guns, and you had the standard old battle tactics of charge your enemy, and the British soldiers would be like, yeah, go charge the enemy, and thousands would run at the Germans who would just mow them down, single person, 1 machine gun. First time in human history we had something like that, so millions died within days, and that was the first time that happened. But generally speaking, conventional weaponry, not that many. And in terms of the death tolls, yes, civilians do die, but generally speaking, we're talking about trained soldiers when we're talking about the deaths from conventional weapons. Obviously now, activities in the Middle East, etc., it's more like insurgents and such, but you know, it starts getting sticky if we start breaking it down too much. So in terms of conventional weapons, The largest current non-nuclear conventional weapon is the US-made Moab, which is called the Massive Ordnance Air Blast, or otherwise known as the mother of all bombs, and has a yield of 11 tons of TNT. Okay, so what does 11 tons of TNT look like? Show you here with this brief GIF. So there is the bomb has just dropped. Hopefully it plays. If you can maybe click on the image, it's supposed to be a GIF, it's supposed to play automatically, but let me try that. No luck. Okay, so I'll now describe it to you, but basically that entire hill blows up. So in terms of 11 tons of TNT, it's the equivalent of this entire school ground just going up all at once. So if they drop the mother of all bombs here right now, whole school ground here would just blow up immediately. Okay, can we move on? Hopefully one of the other videos do work at some point, but we'll see. All right, so nuclear weapons, what's the difference there? So far only been used in warfare twice at the end of World War II, and let's hope it stays like that. They're highly complicated, difficult to mass produce, unlike conventional weapons. Even so, singular bombs will definitely destroy more than conventional weapons, and they flatten entire cities, and they irradiate an area as well. Thousands are usually killed instantly when they're detonated. Thousands more are killed days and weeks and even months and years later due to injuries and radiation. And it tends to just kill indiscriminately. The death tolls include every single living thing within a blast and radiation area, unlike, again, conventional weapons, which tend to be mostly singularly located. So I'm going to try and show you, I hope this will work now, I'm going to try to show you this video of what a nuclear explosion actually looks like. You should just be able to click and play it. It is a video, so either click or hopefully that works. Oh, great. Okay. Well, there goes half my presentation, I guess. Okay, it's very big, the explosion. You have to take my word for it. I've got some images, but I'll try and show. All right. So now, again, we're having trouble here. There was some other pictures, but that's fine. I'm going to use this one for now. So why have I got a picture of a Godzilla there? Now, most of you might think, well, Godzilla is just a monster movie, a movie monster, rather. Why would I put that up there? Well, about 8 years after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Japanese film industry decided to make a movie about the horrors of the bombings and radiation. And they chose to represent this through a massive irradiation monster that killed people, was basically undestroyable by the military, that was walking through and wiping everything out. Pay attention to that bridge. We're going to come back to that later, because this is a bridge that was similar to the one in Nagasaki. So for the Japanese, when seeing this movie and seeing this giant monster coming out and breathing radiation and not being able to be destroyed, it hit them hard. For us, it's just a monster. You know, like, I love to watch these movies because they're enjoyable, but there's actual historical reasons. So here is Japan using an artistic method to, you know, come to terms with their grief. And for the rest of us, it's just a funny movie monster, you know. And it did spawn an entire series, and there's lots of fun. You know, we're watching the recent Godzilla movies now, but the basic premise is still there. And for the Japanese, it's still got that original tone of a grief that's included in that. All right, so now we're going to get to the how to split an atom part. And again, we kind of, you can move on there. We did a more practical version of it, but I'm going to quickly give you some background history. So 1933, we had physicist Leo Szilard theorized on the potential of nuclear fission. So he comes up with the idea initially. Scientists then begin experimenting with nuclear possibilities, and they come to that conclusion earlier, right? It'll either be like a huge explosion or an energy source, something in between. But then in 1939, World War II begins, right? Hitler, the Nazis, etc. It gets quite serious. Albert Einstein and Szilard then write to then US President Roosevelt, warning that Nazi Germany could potentially use nuclear weapons or develop nuclear weapons. And of course, Nazi Germany being an incredibly aggressive state at the time, that's a very, very bad thing. I'm not saying, you know, the US is much better in many ways, but at the time, a little bit better. So 1942, then the Manhattan Project begins in the US, and this is a project aiming to develop nuclear bombs. And then J. Robert Oppenheimer is named the head of the Weapon Development Lab, and he's eventually the one who says that that phrase that I mentioned earlier. So again, I had a video. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is that. Before you move on, this is again that question I asked you earlier. So right now, you're potentially in that position with Oppenheimer and Szilard and Einstein, and you're going, should we or should we not split the atom? Well, if we don't, Nazi Germany probably will. So rather the devil you do know than the devil you don't, if I can put it that way. So again, those who said, yes, let's split the atom, this is probably the kind of place where it would be. Now, again, unfortunately, it's not going to work now, but I had some images of what the neutrinos and such look like. But effectively, you have the neutrino, so we had earlier, right, single person, and that's shot into an element. So if my other fist is, if this is the neutrino and this is the element, shoots into that, it explodes, and it goes and does a chain reaction, as we saw earlier. It hits everything around it. And that chain reaction then eventually leads to the bomb going off. So this is then Fat Man. This is the inside of what the bomb would look like. In the center there, we have the neutron initiator. Around it, we have the plutonium core. So I made you uranium-235. That was Little Boy. Fat Man was plutonium core. So they have different types as well, but they're all still nuclear weapons. Then just outside that, we have, right on the outside, we have fast explosives. So they surrounded it, basically, the plutonium core, in explosives. The intention being that when it explodes, it shoots everything into the center, which then causes the reaction to shoot outwards. So that's more or less what you're seeing there. All right, you can move on then. All right, so again, I had some kind of how it works. I don't know if I can try and show it here. When a nuclear bomb goes off, we see that characteristic mushroom cloud. Now, what happens is we call it a pyrocumulus. When that mushroom cloud goes off and it goes up, first it shoots down, and the shockwave levels everything in its area. Probably not going to be able to see the video today, unfortunately, for that shockwave, but go online. There's a website or a YouTube channel called Atomic Central. Go look on there. They have lots and lots of clips of nuclear explosions. You can see exactly what it's supposed to be like. But if we look at the pyrocumulus, so the shockwave goes down and then immediately sucks everything back up. And it'll suck everything up, all the heat generated from the explosion, into the central of the mushroom cloud, goes up into the top and it circles around, creates more drag force, and it just, everything that was flattened is now pulled in. So even if you weren't killed by the shockwave or the radiation or the damage or anything in between, you end up the air being sucked into the cloud. It just completely destroys the cloud, or destroys everything in its path. Now, in terms of what these are, this one is only a 1 kiloton. This one was one of the first tests that they did. This one is about the size of what they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is about how high a plane flies. So this is where it would have seen. This one over here is called the Tsar bomber. It is the largest nuclear weapon ever devised by mankind. And when it was first detonated, there was genuine fear that we were going to burn off our entire atmosphere. But the Russians did it anyway. Nothing like that has ever been developed again since, but we are still very much aware of it. So you sure that we can't, like, there's no way to click through okay, so it's just as is. Okay. All right, so now that we've had that idea, right, so we're back to Manhattan and the Trinity test. So 16 July 1945, Trinity test is the first successful nuclear. This is in the US. Cesar then protests the planned use of the bomb on Japan. He's now made aware that the bomb go off and he doesn't want that. He tries to convince Roosevelt not to use the weapon, and he says that they should rather demonstrate the power of the weapon to Japan in the hopes they would surrender. Sorry, that's a typo. It's not Roosevelt. It's actually supposed to be Truman as the next one, because then he took over as president, and between the two of them, they kind of decided, yes, let's use the weapon to drop on Japan to end the war. That was the apparent reason, but we know that there are lots of other reasons, including potentially that Russia was going to get involved, so it was kind of trying to scare off multiple people at the same time. So then we have 6th of August, 1945, today, 77 years ago, Hiroshima is bombed. A couple of days later, 9 August, Nagasaki is bombed. And then 2nd of September, the Japanese surrender, and World War II officially ends. So that's kind of our timeline. Now, again, I had a video here, and you showed one play, huh? Macs look great. All right, move on. Okay, so consequences. So maybe at least I put one image in ways. So I want to give you an idea of how big a nuclear explosion is. Do you see this little dot here? That's the height of this building. Take that in, just for a second, take that in. This is all of us. That's the height of the entire building. Note that explosion. That is before it becomes the mushroom cloud. That's just the initial explosion. That's the shockwave going out, destroying everything in its path. And that's us, right there. And we're gone. All right, so let's look at some consequences then. Hopefully if everything is working. All right, so we're here now in Cape Town. I thought I would take a look at some things going on. So here we are, Cape Town. There we are in our little school, right? Everyone say hi to Google Maps. That's us. We're a population of 4.6 million. So let me ask you, what would happen if we dropped a nuclear bomb here now on Cape Town, right where we are? Besides dying, what do you think would happen? Well, I'll show you, because there's no way that you would know just off the top of your head, because it is unfathomable. So there we go. We have Little Boy, uranium-235 is the catalyst, was dropped on Hiroshima, 15 kilotons. So what would happen is here, Cape Town, right, we're in that bowl. Now, if you look there immediately, within 24 hours of the bomb dropping, there would be 1.3 million casualties. Depending on the wind direction, and here I've chosen northeast, it would carry across parts of the Western Cape. So in terms of, if you can see the color here, there's yellow right in the middle, that is vaporization. Anything there is immediately vaporized, reduced to ash. Just on the outside is red, that's basically fire and anything destroyed there. Just outside of that, you can't see it here, but there's a little blue one, that would be the shock wave. In terms of here, because we're in a surrounded area by the Table Mountain, the shock wave would reflect twice. It would go out first, bounce off Table Mountain, and come back. So even if you survive the initial shock wave, the second one would kill you. The green there, that's immediate irradiation. So if you're hit by any of that irradiation, immediately fully irradiated, probably die within minutes if you survive everything else. And then everything on the outside is still fire, and then fire and ash and radiation all going out that direction. All right, so let's then look at Fat Boy next. What would the impact be? So similar, right? About 1.4 million casualties this time. Again, very similar effect, similar plume going out. So that was 21 kilotons, and that was dropped on Nagasaki. Now, what would happen if we dropped the Tsar bomber on Cape Town? So I know we were having a lot of fun here, but I take nuclear weapons very seriously. The US itself has 2,578 nuclear weapons. 1/3 of those are missing. They don't know where they are. The USSR has about 1,700 nuclear weapons. Almost 2/3 of those are possibly missing, but they claim less than 1/3. They're missing. People have them. Ha 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 ha. We're all gonna die. Luckily, they don't have Tsar bombers. They just have regular nuclear weapons, if that's any comfort. But you can see here, right? 7.3 million people killed within 24 hours of that bomb dropping. The whole of South Africa, within 24 hours, completely irradiated, fire spreading all across the country, and the radiation itself would spread across the whole southern continent, more than likely up into the north and down to Antarctica, Madagascar, everywhere. Basically, the whole southern hemisphere would become almost completely irradiated. Now, the Tsar bomber is the biggest weapon that we ever physically produced. However, we can still produce another bomb. It's called a cobalt bomb. And the reason it hasn't ever been produced is because it is apocalyptic. It would literally wipe us out. Show the next one. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Everything above the red line is gone. It's dead. It's irradiated. It's on fire. It's burnt. It's destroyed. So the little red question mark at the top there in the middle, that is the currently only, I mean, there are several of them, but that is the most known US nuclear sub. It's there to kind of defend the US from any nuclear attacks. More that, it's not really defending, it actually launches nuclear weapons in retaliation. So even if the US is wiped out, that one would then retaliate. And it has the capability of nuking anywhere in the world from where it is. If a cobalt bomb existed, that's where it would probably be from. And it could nuke almost everywhere. Australia would be safe, but Australia doesn't fight with anyone anyway. But so it's small comfort. But basically, if they decided to nuke Cape Town, this would be the fallout. Right? So it would be 200 megatons. It's a theoretical weapon, luckily, but we can make it. That's the scary part. And casualties, like I said, apocalyptic. So I think you get the idea then of what the consequences theoretically would be. But I want to show you, well, okay, I had several images all stacked up. There's only going to be one now, I'm afraid. So I had a warning for disturbing images, but I don't think we're going to be able to see all of those. But you can look them up, so perhaps I won't hit you here with them. If you just go to the next one, if I remember correctly, I think it's only the aftermath. So I would have liked to show the full effect of it, but effectively it was, if you've ever seen a photo from Google Maps, like we saw earlier, right? We saw cities and towns and everything from above, and everything's built up. Immediately after a nuclear weapon, it's just flat. It's just white. It looks like snow has fallen across there because not only is everything wiped out, but the ash that falls on it covers everything. So this is now a photo from way after it's about a week after the Nagasaki bombing. And this is kind of the devastation here. This isn't even in ground zero. But just behind that building is the bridge that Godzilla, I was showing you from earlier, that Godzilla was being part of. So it's unfortunate. I would like to show you the other photos, but you can find them online. They're everywhere. I do encourage you to go look at them, not for the sake of, there's a morbid curiosity, not for that sake. Really, when you see it, take into account these were real people. This actually happened. It was actually devastating, and it could happen to any one of us. Especially right now, we're in one of the most dangerous points in human history. We not only having issues with the US and Russia and China, etc., and Ukraine, but our biggest problem is climate change, and that's what's coming up. And when climate change happens, we're not going to be fighting over borders. We're not going to be fighting over political entities. We're going to be fighting over water, food, and land, because climate change is going to make certain parts of the world unlivable. And the bigger, badder countries are then going to start using their arsenals to enforce their claim over certain resources. This is already happening. You can see this globally. So it's something I would definitely look in. The possibility of nuclear warfare has never been higher. And that's a lot saying, coming from when we had the 1950s and 60s and even 70s, where people were genuinely concerned they were going to die within days because Russia was this close to nuking the US. And it was actually. I don't know if you know this is one story of a Russian nuclear sub. A commander was in there, and he got the order from another commander to nuke the US because they had gotten mistaken radar showing that the US had sent a nuke. It was a complete mistake, but no one realized it. This commander on the Russian sub said, no, I don't care if you shoot me, I don't care if you fire me, I don't care anything, I will not launch this because my gut tells me this is incorrect. So luckily he didn't, and he inadvertently saved the world that day, because if he had decided to fire, there would have been a nuclear hellstorm going on. We would not be here today. So unfortunately I've just forgotten his name, so forgive me, but do look it up. It's a very interesting story, and I think there's even a movie about it. All right, let's move on then. All right, yeah, so there was this like Godzilla. You can go on from there. Okay, so last question. We'll get to the end again. As a point, I will upload this presentation onto my website. So if you want to see it in full with all the extra pictures and the videos, it will be up there, so you are welcome to check it out. But let's find, what can we do? Because I like to ask that question. I like to consider it. I don't just want to, I mean, part of this was to scare you a little bit. I want you to get out of your zone a little bit, but it's not just for scaring. I want you to genuinely, in fact, if anything, I want you to get angry. That's more the emotion I want out of this. Fear, depression, anxiety, that's all well and good, but it leads to apathy. I want you to be angry, because when you're angry, things change. And not the kind of anger that leads to, bashing people's heads with baseball bats, unless, I guess, they're particular world leaders. But generally speaking, I want you to be angry enough to do something about this. And you might ask, well, again, what's the point of this? I'm down here in South Africa. Now, granted, if there was a nuclear war up in the north, it wouldn't affect us immediately. But we'd be affected in the long term by radiation, by refugees. There would be a lot of things happening. So we're only safe for now. And again, if they do a full nuclear war, there's two fallouts. Number one is radiation coming down through the winds and everything, killing us slowly but surely. And the second is a nuclear winter, where ash and clouds and dust go into the sky. They block out the sun, and we all end up freezing to death anyway, because it gets so cold and we can't grow crops. So either way, it still affects us. It's still something to consider. And again, you might go, well, I've got so much to worry about. I've got bad economy. I've got climate change. I've got all that. It's all related. And I'm going to tell you momentarily why it's related. So first of all, it's cool, man. So like I said, so what can we do? Well, exactly this. The good news is we're already doing it. Right now, here, today, we are doing it, okay? We are not giving up hope. We're here. We're giving up our Saturdays so we can sit and listen to this stuff. It's good, all right? Next, I want you to educate yourself. Study, read, watch YouTube videos, read a Wikipedia page, whatever. Go to your library and just look at the nice pictures about bombs. Whatever you want to do, just educate yourself to a degree. Tell stories like we're doing today, raise awareness, have discussions, protest. Contact international media, start initiatives, start websites, make YouTube videos, make connections, speak to the right people, apply pressure to governments and lawmakers to disarm and use renewable energy. So I'd like to say one positive in South Africa's favor is that we were the first country to ever voluntarily give up nuclear weapons. So I think that's a really big deal and really good for us. We were the first. We're not the only one so far, but definitely the first. And I think that's a really big deal. Now, if we get other countries to do the same, that would be great. But we need to stop relying on coal and nuclear and all that for our energy needs. We need to move more to renewable energy, and again, that's that whole relationship, right? If we start looking into the causes of war, the causes of energy usage, the big oil companies, the big conglomerates who are using fossil fuels and making everything harder for us all, it's all sides of the same coin. The people who are probably going to use nuclear weapons are part of that conglomerate. So the more likely we are to put pressure on them to do the right thing and to go into a future where we can all live together without the fear of nuclear threat, and we can have renewable energy and proper growth of plants and all that, I think the better. So yeah, that is my message to you. Hopefully something sticks today. At the very least, go look up some YouTube videos of the explosions. The history aside, it's really cool to see big fire explosions. Anyway, thank you so much. I think that's the end of my slide. I think that's the last one. Yeah, here we go. Thank you, everyone. Again, that's my website at the top there. When that goes away, citizenhistorian.com. You're welcome to take a look. I've got a couple interesting things on there. And have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Garrett. Another round of applause, please. That was really good. Just a short request, when there are presentations being done, could I please ask everybody to be very quiet? It does disturb the person in front. And if you can just please pay attention, thank you. And then I'm going to put Garrett on the spot. And I'm going to ask the audience, does anyone have a question or two for Garrett after his presentation? Hey? Well, I want to know if anyone has a question first. Thought, do you want to give him the mic? Okay, I just need someone to give him the mic, please.
Oh, yeah. In your mic.
Give the first guy. Okay, thanks. Thank you for such a very educational presentation. As someone who comes from the working class, I am interested to. Okay, so thanks, man. Thank you for the educational and progressive presentation. And as someone who comes from the working class, and of course an activist. And I assume that there are all many activists here as well. Our primary concern, I should say concern, is the struggle for the working class. So I am interested to know, Kuti, how does the whole presentation, links to our struggle? How does it assist? How does it impact, the struggle for the working class? Yeah, I think that's basically my question.
Harder. They're the ones who are deciding on these wars. They're the ones who are deciding to continue a system which perpetuates the problem that we're currently facing, including what's happening to our working brothers and sisters, as far as I'm concerned. So in my mind, just deciding end of nuclear weapons isn't enough. There's a system in place that leads to them being developed, that leads to countries facing off, rattling their nuclear weapons at each other and go, oh, you try anything and I'll blow you up. It's a ridiculous system, and it keeps certain peoples in power. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all part of the same thing. The roots are the working class problems, and it all goes up into a big, let's say mushroom cloud right at the top, where you got your Putins and you got your Bidens and you got your, all them at the top just making trouble for everyone else. So as far as I'm concerned, look, so learning about nuclear weapons isn't going to suddenly solve the working issue. The root of why there are nuclear weapons, why there are still nuclear weapons, why a country decided to bomb another country, and why we're still facing this threat. That root is what's causing all this trouble. It's actually, I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but I've got a project in the works which I'm hoping to implement across Southern Africa, which ideally is going to be helping answer your thing. Because like I said, even though I study military history, my military history led to me realizing that military problems cause ecological problems, and that led me to understanding that there are societal problems, all interrelated. So I'm busy trying to work on a project to kind of address all those issues. So it's still early work, so I can't talk about it now, but have I answered your question more or less? Okay, great. All right, next person. Over there. Oh, you got it. Okay, great. Yes.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Just a quick one. Here in Cape Town, we've got the nuclear plant. Is it related to what you've just said? And how serious is the threat for us today? How serious is the threat tomorrow, in 10 years' time? Will our children survive? What is the implications for future generations? Thank you.
Okay, good question, because we are right near a nuclear power plant, so that is a serious question. So I will say for my part that Koeberg Nuclear Power Station is one of the safest in the world. It's got really good checks. It is really good overall as far as nuclear power stations go. Again, though, it leads to the problem of what is the long-term solution, and is nuclear power it? Again, as far as I'm concerned, no. Right now, it is really well looked after. It's well maintained. I have read up about it. It's got international safety standards. The chances that we will face any kind of catastrophe from Koeberg, you know, like they saw in Ukraine or in Japan not too long ago, is very slim. My problem is that, look, put it this way. If you have a solar panel and it stops working, it's not like you can't live there anymore. It's not like everyone dies. It just stops working, so repair it. If Koeberg ever stops working, and stops working catastrophically, that's pretty much Cape Town done for. So for me, there's a margin of error that's just not good enough. Again, though, I don't want everyone to start running to Koeberg and going, we're unsafe there. Right now, Koeberg is one of the safest power stations on the planet, so we're okay. But what I would like to see come out of this is not people, you know, slinging mud at Koeberg, but a peaceful transition from reliance of nuclear to renewables, which we have tons of. We could put enough solar panels in the Kalahari to power our entire country, and we'd do it within a year. But we won't do it because there's too much money tied up in coal and power stations and all that stuff. But I hope I answered your question. We're okay, don't worry. All right, anyone else? Yes? It's coming to you. Sorry, is this going to be the last? Should I do the last? Oh, sure. Hold on a second.
Sorry about that. I really just wanted 2 questions asked. If anyone else has further questions, kindly just see his website or speak to him afterwards. Sorry, Garrett, that's okay. We're just running late with time. I do apologize, ma'am. Okay, I was just going to say, you know, when you think, you know, coronavirus is almost over and the world's kind of coming together again, and then you have Garrett coming up telling you about the nuclear weapons, and anyway, let's move on. Next, we have a New Mexico music video, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So if that can play.
Wazi, Doshirime Petuch, Alko Mestata. Hello, my name is Petuch, and I am Akama. And you are seeing me outside my house on the Acoma Indian Reservation. This is our homeland. My people have been here for thousands of years. During the heyday of uranium mining in this area here, we are in the midst of what's been defined as the Grants Mining District. The world's largest open pit uranium mine was to the east of us at Laguna, our sister Pueblo, Laguna Pueblo, and then to the west in the Grants Milan area, concentrated most of the uranium mining in this area here. So Laguna had the world's largest open pit uranium mine at one time, and the mining took place, a lot of uranium mining took place in the Grants Milan area to the west of here. The Grants Mining District is about 60 kilometers long and 40 kilometers wide. So you had 97 uranium mines here, and 5 uranium mills. And approximately 40 to 50 years of mining took place. And today you see the devastation of the ill effects of uranium mining and milling. And people are still being affected by radioactive contamination. The radioactive contamination occurred from mining the ore, milling the ore, and then later created mill tailings that affects people's groundwater, affects the surface, affects the air. So today, even though mining has ceased, we're still demanding that the federal government and the state of New Mexico reclaim these so-called now today legacy mines or abandoned uranium mines. Again, the ill effects upon people's lives, the cancers that are being caused are still with us today. So we advocate, say no to uranium mining, keep uranium in the ground, especially in this location, because behind me, you can see our sacred mountain, which is called Kaweshtima. In U.S. language, they call it Mount Taylor. But this is a sacred place to Acoma, to other indigenous peoples, and we say no to uranium mine near or around this mountain. And we're supporting the people in the Congo to learn from the ill effects of mining uranium. Not only did it cause negative effects to human population, but the after effects of using it for nuclear power plants, which then produce nuclear waste. That's still been the challenge of still what to do with the nuclear waste. And then the use of the uranium to make atomic bombs are all bad negative effects on the human population of this globe. And we ask and we support all the efforts that other activists are doing to protect the people from the bad effects of all the impacts of the nuclear fuel chain that's occurring.
Wow, that was crazy. And you know, this video is a video from our twin, which is in New Mexico. By twin, I'm saying twin because they were impacted and affected in the same way we were by the uranium mining in Congo. But in today's event, we want to focus on connecting the link between Shinkolobwe and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So before I take it home, just as an energizer to know that everybody's here, for the new people that have come in, because I see a lot of new faces, everybody's already into it. The guys and girls and everyone else that is here is already into it. But the greeting goes Mbote. Can everybody repeat Mbote? Mbote. You guys sound tired. Guys, it's only 2 p.m. Mbote. Nice, nice. So I'll be calling up John Eves. He's going to be connecting us, New Mexico, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Guys, please give a round of applause for John Eves.
Okay, and once more, I greet you. Normally, I used to make a big PowerPoint, and when I'm speaking, then you can see what I'm talking about. And just before me, Garrett was explaining the impact of radioactive ore, and I think that was happened to me because it totally destroyed my laptop this morning. So I lost some archives, and I will try to speak without my PowerPoint. The first thing when you're talking about Shinkolobwe, and I know that it's very difficult for most of us to locate where's Shinkolobwe. Shinkolobwe is in the southern part of Congo, as I said, not so far from Zambia. And that area, it's a very important triangle when it comes to the geopolitics of Congo, because 75, thanks more. Cool. So, this is Ndola, we are in Zambia, Lubumbashi is there, and then you're going to Likasi. So Shinkolobwe is almost 20 kilometers from Likasi, but Shinkolobwe is situated 55 kilometers from where Lumumba were assassinated. Very important point. Shinkolobwe is also situated 200 kilometers from where the UN Secretary General Daga Masjol had his crash. Those two details are very important because up to now, there is no clearly information about how Lumumba was assassinated, where and by whom and in which condition. Means there is still a shadow of silence and secrecy about. And up to now also, there is no clearly explanation on how the UN Secretary General died. So no clearly investigation and explanation about the crash. While we know that he got his crash when he was trying to come and sort out issue in Congo, or rebellion issue, and we also know that the rebellion was linked to the control of Katanga province, where Shinkolobo is situated also, and by external power. So the shadow of silence, the shadow of secrecy is still on Shinkolobwe, where Lumumba was assassinated, and where also Dag Hammarskjöld died. First point. Second element that I want you to keep in mind is that, and maybe you may also ask yourself, how did the US know that in Shinkolobwe they can get the uranium? A special man called Einstein, very well known, is the one who wrote to the president of US to say, listen, we will get access to a very important material that is situated in Congo. And because you know that South Africa also has uranium, US has also uranium. This is Einstein. And also, we also have uranium in Australia, in Canada. So, he's the one who directed the regard, who directed the attention of US to Congo. So he's, I think he's a physician or chemist, I forgot, but very, very well known, a very famous man. So why did he suggest US to get control of the uranium in Congo so far, while next in Canada, they also have uranium, US also have uranium, and they could go anywhere else? The uranium of Shinkolobo is so specific. Why? Because what we have in South Africa, Gareth was explaining, and I think during the engagement, people understood that it's very dangerous. It's a very, you can't play with uranium. But what you have here is only 0.2 to 0.03 the percentage of uranium you got from the ground in South Africa, in Canada, or in US. The uranium of Congo, the percentage is 65%. So compare, you have 0.02 to 0.03, but that one is 65%. First difference. That's the first thing that makes it very specific and very special. So it could allow them to process so quickly to get the result than use what they had closer. So means it presents a very good advantage. But at the same time, on one side, it's very important because it can help you to process so quickly and reach the result. On the other side, it's also the most dangerous uranium in the world. Because the West that was abandoned on the ground, I say here, it's 0.02 to 0.03, but the West that was abandoned on the ground in Shinkolobo represents 20%. Means, I think 200 times dangerous than what you have. That the West that was abandoned. So that's what makes the uranium of Congo very important, and that's what it was target. The other point that is very important also for us to keep in mind, that how did they really get access to the uranium? Remember that we say it's a scramble. People are fighting in Europe, and the one who get access to the atomic bomb can destroy the other side. And to go quick, what happened? It was a battle between spies, and US and Belgium had a strategy saying, if we try to equip, because to approach a mine, to touch uranium, you must be well equipped. It's very radioactive and dangerous. And they said they will not give protective equipment to the miners. Otherwise, it can, the spies around can have a suspicion that people are manipulating uranium. So they only said to the miners that this is a special copper. It looks a little bit different, but it's copper. Means you can get close to that and you can work as we used to process with copper. So miners went underground day and night to dig. They brought out of the ground the uranium, touch it, they manipulate it, they sort it by their own, they pack it close to the habitation, and most of the housing also were made with very radioactive material. They were not informed about what they were touching. That is very important, and today we are during the COVID area. Imagine that we were planning this conference for long, and I assume that one of the Gadek or me or someone else is tested positive. And then organizer decides not to inform you that, please guys, one of us here is COVID positive and please stay away. And after that, you realize after this conference that they knew that I'm COVID positive. They let me be in touch with you, greeting you, touching you, because they just want to protect this conference. What will be your reaction at the end? That's the situation in Shinkolobo. People knew that it's dangerous to proceed like this, but if we inform them that it's uranium or we protect them, the other spies may know, they also will try to control the mine and will be fighting here. So let's act like it's not uranium. That's the way my people were contaminated and radiated that time. And after that, all the West were abandoned on the ground. And for those who know Katanga, it's an area where it's rain every time. So means the West was on the ground and it polluted the ground, the river, the soil, and for those who can have a chance to visit Shinkolobo, and I'm happy that I don't have a PowerPoint, that at least it gave you a homework to go on Google and scratch and try to see how the place look like. You will see that it look like a desert. So that the impact of Shinkolobo from that time, the fact that people were not protected and they didn't take any precaution to protect the environment as well. So that the exploitation. After that, the uranium goes out. But what is the heritage of uranium today in Shinkolobo? What left? Scratch on Google and you will see that it's a big hole. It's an artificial lake, because after that they try to close the mine. They put concrete and then they put water on. It looked like a lake. And then they went. But around Shinkolobo live miners, and you know, people can still go and scratch here and there. And before I move to that, remember that after the mine was closed, people moved and went back to look for other activities, but carrying the radioactivity on them. So they start to notice that people was getting disease like cancer and other disease. They thought they were ghosts, because remember there were no hospital around. They thought they were ghosts, and then people start to find for traditional treatment, but that couldn't save their life. But in 2004, the mine collapsed. Not totally, a part of the mine collapsed. The International Agency, International Atomic Energy Agency, that is one of the most important departments in the UN, was sent to do an assessment of the place to see how dangerous is the place, how can it impact on the life of people. They spent 10 days in Congo. They couldn't approach the mine. They did an assessment, and the conclusion was this. One, the area is totally contaminated. because they were living in Likasi in the hotel, and they could notice that even in the hotel, there are signalization of radiation, even in trees by the police station, and they try to go far from Shinkolobwe in the area, there's still signalization of radiation. So first conclusion, the place is still very contaminated. Second conclusion, they said they couldn't do a deep assessment. Why? Because they were fearing for their own safety. They say for us, it's not safe to go closer and do more research about to see how dangerous is it. Imagine that those saying that it's not safe are the highest people regulating the uranium or radiation problem. I'm finishing now. They say it's not safe. And the third point, they said they didn't have enough found to do a research. Not enough found. The UN doesn't have enough found to do a research in some place in the world. Just to give you a figure, in Canada, problem with radiation, people were not in direct, is the west that contact the ground, but at least there is a process of decontamination. In US, where Mana project took place, they were affecting like 500,000 yearly to clean up the place. But in Congo, never sent to invest to clean up the mess they made themselves. That's the reality of Shinkolobwe today. That's what people are facing now. So the Congolese civil society is happy to see that there are more and more people trying to be interested on this fight. And actually, we're trying to plan. Today, we're talking, we're speaking on behalf of people living there. And we're hoping that next time we'll have people living there trying to explain to us whatever. So this is currently what's happening there. It's a lake, and the environment looks like that. And people walk there trying to dig and get cobalt, because all around you have also cobalt. So the mine have never been closed as promised. So briefly, that what the situation of Shinkolobwe today and what happened in the past, and just keep in mind that nothing is done to protect those population. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Eve. Guys, if I don't stop him, he won't stop talking. Like I said, if anyone has a question for both Eve and Garrett, please go to them afterwards. There will be some refreshments. And we're also very close to the end. Thank you for holding up. I know it's not the easiest thing to pay attention to. I think we have 4 or 5 more events happening, and then we'll wrap up. Sorry, so anyone that needs Eve afterwards can just, after when we're done, can go to him and ask him any questions that you might have. Next, we're going to have the performance of the band. I don't know if you're ready. If we can have a round of applause for them, please. Thank you.
I have a love inside of me. Onga mwasi mobali nyonso alinga kakanga. Na bonzinga na ngai mobali nyonso alinga kakanga. Bonzimba na ngai emema kufa emema pe bomoy. I have a love inside of me. Onga Congo, les sangs coulent à cause de ma beauté. Onga Congo, les sangs coulent à cause de ma richesse. Ah, ah. Au Congo. Ah. Pour l'évolution de la science, il a fallu que le sang coule. On a caoutchouc, na IVA, l'esclavagisme et la mort. Uranium et bombe atomique. Combattons-moi, je pars de l'avenir. Oh, 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 oh. Vous m'exploitez mal. J'allume l'Afrique. Moi, je suis dans le noir. Oh, 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 I'm crying. Set me free. Hear me out. I wanna live. I wanna give life. Oh, I'm crying. Set me free. I wanna live. I wanna give life. Hey, Congo, Congo, Congo. Hey, hey, Congo, Congo ya bakoko, Congo. Hey, ah, Congo, 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 Congo. Ah, Congo ya Mobutu, Congo ya Tshisekedi, Congo ya Lumumba, Congo ye. Ah, botalelanga Congo ye, Congo ye, Congo nanga ye. I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying. Ah, oh, I'm crying, I'm crying. Oh, thank you.
Shame. Are there any Congolese here? Congolese? Yeah? Okay. Basi Porter Bagangi. Yay! Okay. Okay, going forward, we have a video from Yoko in Japan. Can we put that up quickly?
My sincere appreciation for finding me and letting me My sincere appreciation for finding me and letting me connect you all to this event where we remember the first suffering of the nuclear chain of Sinkarobwe. As the title of today's event is clearly stating that the story will not be complete without talking about the original suffering and place. Or the atrocity doesn't have the foundation to speak of the human suffering if we forget to speak of Sinkarobwe, the predecessor of all of us who experienced and also currently and generationally experiencing the nuclear devastation. My name is Yukio Kawano, a third-generation Hibakusha from Hiroshima, now living in Portland, Oregon, a west coast city of the United States. I would like to briefly touch on the Manhattan Project first. The name Manhattan Project was given after the location where the initial meeting had taken place, Manhattan, New York in 1942. The project had chosen 3 locations: Oak Ridge, Tennessee for uranium refining in October 1942, Los Alamos, New Mexico, and an assembly laboratory in November 1942, and Hanford, Washington for plutonium production in January 1943. Each location has its radiation residue and is dealing with radiation contamination. As I mentioned, I currently live in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon. The north border of the state is drawn by a river called Columbia River, which upstream about 3.5 hours east by car is where Hanford, Washington is located. And this place, the sacred indigenous land of Yakima, Umatilla, Wanapum, and Nez Perce, before 1943, is heavily contaminated by the plutonium production. Indigenous people endure health effect and live next to the fear of nuclear catastrophe caused by massive waste that stays in Hanford. Let me briefly touch on my own history to tell you how the issue of Sinkarobwe is personal for me. I was born and raised in Hiroshima, a granddaughter of a Hibakusha who was near the detonation center when the bomb was dropped on August 6, 1945. Tsunematsu, my grandfather, survived, and 2 years later, grandfather and grandmother had Kuniko, my mother. I grew up in an environment where I worry about my mother's health, and from a very early age, I learned to stay quiet in those mornings when my mother started having severe migraine. She died of cancer as well as my grandfather and my uncle, which I now know echoes so many affected communities and families' experience. Sinkarobwe and Dene communities' silent fear and prolonging and generational health effect is my fear and my pain. Being politicized and used on so many levels, Hibakushas in Hiroshima and Nagasaki continue their fight, and on July 14, 2021, Hiroshima High Court ruled the claims of the exposed to black rain subsequent to the bombing of Hiroshima should be recognized as a Hibakusha and received free medical care to be treated as such. This decision is monumental. The High Court said radioactive rain fell on people, and the plaintiffs' Hibakusha are likely to have suffered health damage by being exposed and by internal radiation exposure due to the ingestion of contaminated food and well water. The fight continues, however, as it doesn't cover people in Nagasaki who also experienced black rain, as well as second and third generation Hibakushas who are suffering from the generational impact of radiation contamination. Also, I wanted to say about the suffering of Fukushima, the site of nuclear plant disaster in 2011. As we can see from Chernobyl nuclear disaster and many other nuclear sites contamination, the so-called safe operation of nuclear fission only works when no human mistakes are made. In a world where we daily see institutional human failure, yet alone starting war, running nuclear generator is only waiting for next catastrophe, and that is the message from Fukushima, where it's too late for them, but want the world know that nobody should suffer from institutional violence, of covering up the radiation effect, social oppression and suppression, and deep despair that they are currently under. I would like to share some pictures taken by California film team Irene Rustic and Helge Franzen in Hanford, Washington, the sacred land of the indigenous that was taken from them for Manhattan Project to make bombs. What you see is an art object that I made soon after the Fukushima disaster of 2011. It is a fabric art that is assembled Fat Man, the atomic bomb detonated on Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945. I used a kimono worn by my grandmother in the 1940s in Hiroshima and sewed it together with a strand of my own hair, suggesting the DNA, the intertwining of the living and the dead. We carry within each cell of our bodies the genetic legacies of our foreparents, whose DNA, in my case, was exposed to the bomb's ionizing radiation and potentially altered. My bomb replica is depicted as falling towards the earth, its nose pointed towards the ground, which is how I see the atomic bomb. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the video. We actually at the end of the presentation, we're just going to light our second candle, and this is just in remembrance of all the victims of the radiation poisoning and the people of the DRC in particular. So if we could just have a moment of silence while Tola finds the lighter to light the candle. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, just in finishing off, I just want to let everybody know that at the end of the presentation, when everything's finished, once we go for our refreshments, there's also an actual virtual reality of the products that were announced today, so you get to feel and see what has actually been mentioned. And then obviously take the opportunity to grab the dictionaries. And then, yeah, just in finishing off, if I can have Eve back on stage with limited time, just to conclude and leave us with a thinking about bringing the missing link of history to the fore.
Kolove, Shigolove.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, comrade, for being part of the event. And before we conclude, I would just like to remind that in whatever we're doing, because we're living in a world that we're like in a rush, running to reach our objective, but still remember that humanity could never be used as just a means to reach your objective, but always as the final objective in whatever we're doing. Technology is important, but not because we're rushing to get the last technology that we want, that we can be jumping on human right, we can be violating other people's right, and we can be committing crimes. That's how the world is progressing. So progress is important. All we did now and what we'll do after with the VR reality is technological progress, but please, it's important to consider the human cost that is paid for us to have access to where we are. And just to finish, take from this event whatever you can. Try to make it your own event. Take any piece of information from here and try to share with other people. Let people know that today we're paying the tribute for those who lost their life in Japan, but please, there's still something that is not well said, is the commemoration of those who lost their life in Shinkorobo in Congo for the Manhattan Project to take place. The life always and also matter. So if there is something that has to be said or done, do it. But also if there is any support that you can make for the civil society, you more than welcome. We are NPO and we'll always be there to organize this kind of event. Feel free to invite us to your community, to the history of Congo. The more we know each other. I always say that a foreigner is your brother that they didn't introduce to you yet. Now that you know a piece of history of Congo, we're not foreigner here anymore. We're sharing somewhere a piece of history. So let's collaborate in that way. The more we know each other, the more we become closer. Thank you for today, and let's call it a day. Thanks.
Yes, 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 yes. A big round of applause for you for sitting right through this. So, we are now at the end of today's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful occasion. Before we end, we'd just like to give out some certificates of appreciation to some of the people that allowed for this to be possible. So as they come up, I would like you all to give them a round of applause. One, we have Chisiman's very own Alex. Can she please come up? Thank you so much for enabling this to be possible. Number two, we have The Rock Mutuel Charles. Can he come up, please? Thank you, Mr. Charles. Number three, we have Vision Daily Excellence, Mr. James. Can he also come up, please? Number four, we have Biso Nabiso, Mr. Einstein. Can you please come up? Number five, we have Bamama Lisungi, Mr. Dede Mboto. Thank you so much, ma'am. Number six, we have Were Together. We are together, sorry. Can we are together please come up? Number seven, we have Mr. Kaya. Mr. Kaya, can you please come up so we can appreciate you? Thank you. Number eight, we have Isam Bechu. Please come up so that we can appreciate you, sir. Number nine, Pachedu. can you please come up? Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Safe Place International. Can you please come up? Thank you so much. All right.
Actually, can I stop you right there? We have two more. Mama Lily Umoja, are you there? Mama Lily.
Mama Lily.
There's one more. A round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, we have Mama Dorcas. Who's representing Mama Dorcas? One person. Thank you. Yeah, just the last one.
Thank you so much, Mama Dorcas.
Mama's very happy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially reached the end of today's program. Mbote! Mbote! We have refreshments in the back, and we also have a real life virtual reality experience of entering a mine further down there. You may enjoy yourselves and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you for
Thank you for
coming.
coming.